welcome back to Call the Damn Leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drew B. Wilson. With more than 2 decades in sales, I've seen it, been through it, heard about it. Now I'm bringing it to you, my favorite people in the world, the sales community. Because let's be honest, this is the greatest job on earth. Doesn't matter where you come from, what background, what personality type, what gender. You can make an amazing life for yourself in sales so long as you do the work. And today's guest is definitely not a stranger to that. So I'm excited to welcome Miss Ursula Mentjes.
Yeah, Drew, super excited to be here with you today and to nerd out on this sales conversation. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be a good one. I already know from reading your bio before we got started, but I don't want to take anything from you. I want to jump right into your crazy sales story.
Yeah. So let me set the stage. I grew up on a farm in southern Minnesota. So I knew the value of hard work all the time. I'm a 70s kid, right? So we just worked hard. My parents said, go to college, get a good job. So I went to the closest school I could. I got a degree in psychology and communication, which, I could do absolutely nothing with when I graduated. Sadly. So I thought, I want to go to law school. Like I had this feeling like I wanted my own thing, but I didn't have any money left. I had no money in the first place. I had scholarships and all things. Anyway, I was working at Pier One imports, making $6.25 an hour back in the day. And one of my good friends worked with me there. And she's like, listen, Urs, I have an opportunity for us. And my favorite word in that sentence was us. I was like, do tell Jana, what's this opportunity? And she said, listen, my aunt and uncle just sold their company to IBM for $10 million. They're empty nesters. They live in Boulder, Colorado. I already called ahead and we can transfer from the Burnsville, Minnesota Pier One location to Boulder. Like we got transferred, right? And we'll have a job when we get there. We'll get to live in their multi-million-dollar. Like it was just this incredible opportunity. I was like, yes, Jana, let's go. So I had, Drew, and maybe you can relate to this. Maybe your listeners can. I had all these limiting beliefs about people with money, like what that meant, people who own companies. I'd never met an entrepreneur before. So here we are, we roll up and I kind of feel like this poor kid from, Minnesota, this poor farm kid. We roll up and we get to know her aunt and uncle. And, when people come across your path, they just change your life. And Jana's uncle Will sat me down one day and he's like, what are your plans? Which was kind of code for you guys can't live here forever. We like you, but, what are your plans? And I was like, listen, I think I want to go to law school because that's the only thing I could think of. And I like to argue. So I was like, that makes sense. And Will looked at me and he's like, we'd be happy to pay for that for you. And in that moment, they had all this money. They became philanthropists essentially, and they just wanted to make people's lives better. And he saw something in me and I was like, Will, I could never accept a gift like that. I'm a poor farm kid from southern Minnesota. Like we say no 3 times to coffee. Okay. Like, no, thank you. No, thank you. Nothing. So he's like, okay. He goes, I totally get it. May I offer you some advice? Drew, this was the game changer. I said, yeah, I need some advice. He said, and I quote, get a job in outside sales and you can do anything. I was like, what? What's outside? Like, am I selling to farmers? Like, I didn't even know what that meant. He said, no, you get listen, he goes, you got a background in psychology and communication, update your resume, send it to me. I'll send it to the people I know. I didn't know people who knew people, right? No one ever said like, I'll send my, whatever. And he goes, get a job in outside sales. He's like, you could even have your own company someday. So I was like, all right. Like I needed the advice. Here's how the universe works though. Got my resume updated, was going to send it to Will, went to work at Pier One Imports that day in Boulder. And I meet this woman with this business suit on. Her name's Christine Grayboys. And she works for this international computer training and consulting company. We start chatting. She's like, what are you doing here? And I was like, well, I'm working here and I'm looking for a job in outside sales, even though I didn't even know what that meant. I just said it. And she goes, we're hiring. Do you want to interview? And I go, what do you sell? And she said, computer training and consulting. And here I am in my head. I'm going, liberal arts major, psychology, communication. I don't know anything about it. I could get around a computer, but I didn't disqualify myself in that moment. I thought, Will must know, like my new mentor, Will must know what he's talking about. So I said, yeah, I'll interview. And really quickly, the rest was, it happened so fast. I interviewed, they hired me. They kept asking me about my farm life. And I should have known, Drewby, that meant that it was going to be hard work. Right? Making sales calls was not going to be fun. And so anyway, they hired me. I was paid, this was 2 decades ago, $24,000 base salary, which was like for me winning the lottery plus commission. I could make as much as like 50 grand a year. In a year, I went from being an outside sales rep to becoming a branch manager at the age of 22. And they didn't know what to do with me. And then they said, hey, we just opened this other office in in California. Would you be interested? I was in Colorado at the time. In California, would you be interested in going out and running it? And I was like, sure, And so in 5 years, I went from being an outside sales rep to being president of a $20 million company. How? Because I listened to Will and I learned how to sell, and then eventually I started my own company. But let me tell you this really quickly. Am I okay if I tell a little bit more about?
Yeah, come on, bring it on. Okay. This is great. I'm loving it.
So the first day on the job, all right, I'm so excited. Like, they're paying me a base salary plus commission. Like, I kind of feel like I won the lottery. And my manager, so I had a sales manager, Jeff, and then another manager, Craig. And Craig was the regional manager, and he was training me on the sales script. Okay. So he's like, okay, here's what you're going to call IT directors. Your job is to make 100 cold calls every single day on a tick sheet, and then hand it into your manager, Jeff, and then you can go home at the end of the day. And I was like, well, who am I calling? And he said, you're calling IT directors to get appointments with them to sell computer training and consulting, which of course I knew nothing about. And I was like, okay. So basically I said, well, if I get the appointment, can I bring like a sales trainer? Can I bring someone smarter than me in tech? Cause I don't know anything. And he's like, yeah, you can bring anybody right in the beginning until you learn, and you'll get it. And he's like, but really just, pick up the phone and make appointments, and here's your script. And like he said it like it was time to start doing that, which is what it was. So he goes, listen, here, this was like a 2-hour training, because we're going to go to your cubicle and you're going to make cold calls to set appointments. And I'm going to coach you. Is there anything worse than that? Like, you know what I mean? Like your branch manager, regional manager sitting there listening. It felt super transactional. So that was my first day, and it was awful. And so being like, I was a big reader, I love learning. So that night I went to the local Barnes and Noble, found every book I could on sales and selling, from Brian Tracy's The Psychology of Selling to Jeffrey Gitomer's The Sales Bible. Jeffrey would just yell at you in his books, which I loved. He was like, yes, go do it. Zig Ziglar to stay motivated. And then I found a book by the now late Dr. Wayne Dyer that was also a game changer for me. So I had all this sales strategy, but then I found this book about intention and thoughts and how I was affecting my world. And I put those two things together, and that's what exploded my sales. Now, let me say this though. My sales manager, Jeff, did not like what I was doing, because I went to Jeff one day and I said, I don't understand why I make 100 cold calls every day. Like, really, what's my goal? My goal is to make 100,000 in sales every month. But if I'm just sitting there like Scott, I remember Scott was next to me. Scott makes his calls, but he doesn't get any appointments. But like, you celebrate that. That doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, isn't my intention to get appointments? He's like, your job, it's a numbers game. Your job is to make 100 calls every single day. And I was like, that doesn't work. I don't know. So we didn't see eye to eye. What I learned very quickly, learning the power of intention. My intention every day, Drewby, was to get 2 appointments with IT directors, 10 appointments a week. Because I did the math in my head, and I was like, if I could get 2 appointments a day, 10 appointments a week, that's a lot. So I would make calls in the morning, have my appointments in the afternoon, calls in the morning, appointments in the afternoon. And that's what exploded my sales. And then I was super excited. And I went to Jeff and I was like, look what I did. I'm only making 25 calls a day. I'm killing it. My intention, he's like, your job is to make 100 calls every single day. Anyway, but then I got promoted out of there and I didn't work for him anymore. But that, like, I went from hating everything about selling to learning what it meant. To, like, I could call anybody. I was like, give me an IT director. I will get an appointment with them. And let me tell you, in the IT consulting and training industry, they already had 7 vendors ahead of us. So the first thing they would say is, we don't need you. And I'd be like, Drewby, I totally hear you on that. I totally hear you. You're like every other IT director. You probably have 7 companies you're already working with, right? You'd be like, yeah. And I said, this is my line. I'd say, there's going to come a day when you need a different kind of training or something specialized, or you're going to want to work with one of our trainers who has over 20 years of experience, because they geeked out on that. Like we had the best trainers in the world. And you're going to want to know that we already have a relationship, and you can just pick up the phone and call me. And I would say nothing. You know what they'd say? They'd say, yeah, you're right. And I'd say, all right, so I'm available next week, this time or this time, which works best for you. They'd pick a time, end of story. And then I'd go in. My intention was like to get a small piece of business. I'm here. Now I want one of your IT people to come to one of my classes. How do we make that happen? So it was just that, like, I shifted from, and I get it. For those of you who are like, where was the doubt? I had so much doubt in the beginning. I had fear. I had all the things, but I also needed to make money. There was nobody looking out for me. There was nobody taking care of me. I had some college loans left. I had to like pay the bills. I had to figure it out. So anyway, that's my story. And it was a phenomenal ride. And eventually started my own company. And Will was right. Will was right. Learn how to sell and you can do anything.
There's so much I want to unpack from this. Like,
Let's do it.
kudos to you, because it's so awesome to me to hear stories from people who come from nothing and understand that that is the greatest position to be in, because there's nothing to lose and there's all but growth to have. And the first thing I'm going to get at is the 100 calls a day.
Yeah.
So in my business, one of the things I teach, I call it the 110-2 rule. And it's
Okay.
all
Yeah.
about the intentionality. It's 100 outreaches a day with the intention of having 10 good conversations. And of those 10 good conversations, setting 2 appointments or closing 2 deals.
Oh,
Because a lot
wow.
of
Yeah.
different industries have different sales cycles, right? It's not a
Yes.
buy, call and buy today type thing. And my theory is always this: if you get 2 out of the 3 in any given day, you're having a successful day. Because you might make 100 calls and you might not get anybody on the phone. I mean, back when you were doing it, it was probably a lot easier to get people on the phone versus 2025, where they just hit
Truth.
ignore and it goes right to spam. But the goal is always to be having intentional conversations,
Yeah.
because that's what moves the needle forward. And I love the aspect of, you can learn all the scripts, you can learn all the special tactics, you can do all the training, but it's the actual psychology of what do the people benefit from a relationship with you as their sales professional. That's all
Yes.
that matters. People only care about what's in it for them. I think that's a Zig Ziglar, right? They all
Probably yes.
WIIFM, what's in it for me radio.
Yeah.
And I would love to know, in those situations when you have a manager that's like, you got to make the calls, you got to make the calls. Doesn't matter that you're succeeding in every other aspect.
Yeah.
That internal doubt that you have to fight against, that resistance, for you, what were some of the things that you did to just keep pushing past, knowing that you were proceeding forward in the goal, even though these people were telling you were wrong?
Well, his manager above him there were two of them who were very encouraging and they saw what I was doing and I knew they were watching me, which is why I got promoted so quickly. And so I was like I can argue with my sales manager, but that doesn't really, it's not productive, right? And I also know that Scott is following his formula and he's next door to me. So I was smart enough to know it wasn't working for Scott because he wasn't being intentional, right? Like I
Amen.
just figured it out. I think at the end of the day, Drewby, and I, hearing part of your story, I think I knew, like, growing up the way I did, without sharing a whole bunch of my story, but I had a pretty tough childhood, which a lot of people did. And the massive gift in that was the resilience that I got. You
Mm-hmm.
can't tell me anything that you tell me I can't do something, good on you. Let's freaking go. Let's go. So that ended up being such a gift. And it's such a funny thing to say. I'm like, I'm glad I didn't have a silver spoon childhood. I never would have done the things that I've done in my life. I never would have had my own business. I never would have written books. I never would have had this like core of me. Now, could my childhood have gone different? Could I have become a victim? Absolutely. I could have gone a totally different path. But I chose resilience. And that I can't even tell you how many ways, in some ways, literally has saved my life, but has also allowed me to live a dream that I didn't know I could live.
It's so cool. And one of the things that I heard you mention is, having a mentor, someone who
Yeah.
was just willing to pour into you and share the game and say, listen, here's what works, here's what doesn't work. And you took hey, I'm going to go do this thing and I'm going to listen. And I'll never forget my first day. Like, I was making, I don't know, 20, 30 grand a year in insurance. And I went to the boss, my mentor at the time, and I was like, hey man, what do I got to do to make 6 figures? Cause like all these other people that are in sales are making 6 figures and I'm over here making 30 grand a year and I'm like busting my butt. And the guy said, you just got to be patient. In like 10 years, it'll be your name on the door. You'll be making lots of money. You'll be good. Now go back there and sell some more stuff. And I just thought, I don't know that you know me very well, boss, because like I'm the most impatient person in the world. I have zero interest in waiting to be
Yeah.
successful. I'm trying to be successful now.
Now.
And
Yeah.
then when I got out of that and I went to, working in the tech startup that I was a part of, the mentor there said, hey man, this is your chance to literally get rich and build a kingdom, or you can
Mm.
screw it all up. The choice is yours. And what you said was, I made a choice. You
Yeah.
made an active decision to say, this is what I want out of life, and I will take no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And you went after it with your whole heart and intentionality. And I
Yeah.
think that's kind of the theme of the show, is the intention behind what you're doing and why you're doing it, because it's the why that ultimately gets you to that thing. Is, hey, here's the deal. You know that you need IT sales and training, and at some point you're going to want to chat with us. And if that's the case, then why not start this relationship small? Let's just get to know each other, right? We don't have to go crazy. And
Yeah.
that's the kind of sales that I love, because I'm not someone to be pushed in. Like, I don't like that hardcore in your face, got
No.
a one call close. It's so boring. But
Yeah.
for you, like, as you progressed into your own company and started
Mhm.
going through this, how did you make sure to transfer that idea to the other salespeople that started working for you? Because it's a definite shift of mindset.
Yeah. To your point, I mean, for me, relationships have always been everything. And I treat everyone the same. I had a friend of mine one time, she came down to see me working at the branch office that I was working at the time. And we were pretty young. And she comes in and she was watching me interact with the team. And she said, she goes, it's so interesting. You're the same person here that you are back at the apartment. And I
Mm.
was like, well, why would I be any different? And, you know, especially 2 decades ago, there was kind of this feeling like when you're in the corporate world, you got to act a certain way. But I knew very early on that treating people like gold and really caring about them was everything, was everything. By the time I was president of that company, I was 27 years old. Like I didn't have a lot of experience, but I was just figuring things out, right? I was the president of the company walking around giving people, I'll never forget this, like ice cream sandwiches and just sitting down and having conversations. Eventually I got a degree in marriage and family therapy just for fun, but I will tell you, like, my revolving door was people coming in and talking to me and saying like, hey, this is the thing that I'm challenged with. And you know what I learned very quickly is that my employees, they couldn't do what they needed to do, my sales reps couldn't do what they needed to do without um, without knowing that I cared about them and without that level of support. So I took that, you know, when I started my own company, the same thing for my team members, and the same thing that I taught my, like when I would go out and work, because I coached a lot of sales teams too. I cared about them the same. I just care about people. And that that translates. People feel that.
It's so fun to see the shift in someone that you're working with when like when the light bulb comes on and they go, wait, so like I don't have to memorize these scripts, I don't have to be like this, I can genuinely just like care about people and want to solve their problems, and I'm gonna make more money.
Right.
It's almost like confusing to them. And the giver's gain mentality, the idea of, hey, I'm just gonna genuinely get to know this person. I've always said sales is as much therapy as it is knowing the script and the product and the services.
Totally. Yes.
And so
Yeah.
with going through that, like, how did you, I mean, I heard you've written a couple of books as well. And so like, what prompted you to
Yeah.
start actually pouring out and putting this content out into the world?
So it's so funny. You and I are so aligned. So my first book was called Selling with Intention.
Imagine
um,
that.
yeah, and I wrote the first book because I was invited. I started to get invited to speak on stages, and honestly, that was not. I did not want to do that. I had a deep fear of public speaking. Like I would have panic attacks on stage. That was not my dream. But God was like, "Hey, get your butt on stage. Like you got something to share. Get on stage." So eventually, I wrote the book because I was speaking a lot, and I kept saying the same things over and over again. I was like, you know, that this is probably a book. The book has been like revised 3 times because the first edition was like terrible, but I got it done. You know, and then since then, I've gone on to write 4 other books that, you know, from goal setting to sales to just some life advice on how to grow the business that you want to grow it. And I just feel really fortunate because the clients we work with today, like that's what they want, right? And to your point, when you do see someone's light bulb go on and they realize they can just say to someone, "Listen, I'm here to help you. If I can help you, awesome. And if I can't, I'd love to refer you to somebody else who can." Like when you can get
Amen.
to that point, that level of confidence that I'm just here to serve. And like you said, I mean that's I have a degree in marriage and family therapy. It feels like therapy. I believe this is my belief, and I try to give this belief to my clients. You can sit down with someone and literally ask them 1 or 2 open-ended questions. Like, what are you really struggling with in your business? Like if you're selling coaching, right? And not say another word. And by the end of that time together, they'll be selling themselves on you because people buy from you because they feel good about this connection. Like so much of it is um, it's in the unseen. It's in the subconscious mind. They're like deciding, do I like Ursula or not? Do I think she can solve my problem or not? Do I think she's going to stick with me through the hard times? Whatever. That the subconscious mind is just going, "Arr." And when you open that conversation up and you just really listen, you'll know as a salesperson if you can help that person or not. And ethically, that's your job. Ethically, it's like, that's what I want to figure out. Can I help this person or not? If I can, great, I want to. And if I can't, I do want to refer them to somebody else. Maybe there's a different resource for them. Not attached.
It is such a big shift. And one of the things, I read a study recently where they were saying if you want to be interesting, you have to be interested. And so what they did is they went to this airport and they put someone in the seat next to someone on the plane, and they just had this person ask questions and like genuinely get to know the individual that they were next to. And then when they got off the plane, they pulled the person aside and they're like, hey, we're doing a study about whatever, service on airplanes and the experience. And they're like, what did you think of the person sitting next to you? And like 9 out of 10 people were going, that person was awesome, like super interesting guy, like really cool. I liked all this. And they're like, well, what do you know about him? And then they had to stop and think about it. And they're like, well, I don't know how much I know, but I know they asked me a lot of questions and they probably know my whole life story at this point, which is kind of, and
Yeah.
that to me is the secret of sales. The
Yes.
questions you're asking. Are you
Yeah.
asking questions that genuinely make people feel like you care about what they have to say? And by listening with intention, you can kind of rephrase and ask the next question in the sequence of like, oh, well, tell me more about that. What does that mean to you? Like, how does that work? And people love to talk about themselves, but they don't want to be sold anything, because being sold is kind of like an icky taboo. But if
Yeah.
people make the decision like, hey, I really want to work with this person, they will beg like, hey, how do I sign up to it? Like, what's the next step here? And so I'd be curious to know, like, you started your own business. What do you guys do now? Like, what's your big business and how do you help people?
Yeah. So today I actually have two coaching companies. So I have the one that I originally founded, Ursula Inc., which works with service-based companies. And we have something called the CEO table, which is group coaching, but also includes private coaching. I don't love group coaching that like it's hard. Like I still want to have some kind of connection with the clients. And so there's two coaches that are in that, myself and Rebecca who coach. And then we started another company separately. And then we work with a third partner with specifically construction companies. It's so niche, which is really, it's kind of blows my mind because my other company's not that super niche, but we coach construction companies who are maybe like over 7 figures and want to go to 5 million, 10 million. And what's super fun about that company is they all have the same issues. So we've taken a deep dive into AI, and we've been able to create so many powerful tools for them that work here. And we just customize this one. And so in addition to the coaching, they're going from like, multi-millions to 5 million. We have a client now. We have a client who I think is around 5 million, wants to go to 10 million. He needed a solution with his bid process, right? And when you walk in, it's so much easier to see what's going on than it is when you're in the business. So we used AI to help him fine tune his bid process. And in one day, he got out from under he had like 5 million bids that were just sitting there. You know what? That kid's going to hit 10. He's like a kid. He's like in his 20s. He's going to hit 10 million. He's going to hit 10 million before he can sneeze, right? With this one piece. So that's what I do today. We have these two different companies. And it's a blast. I love it. My mission is to help as many entrepreneurs as I can make a lot of money so they can give back to organizations they care about, right? Because all entrepreneurs want to make a difference somehow, right? Mm-hmm. And live a great life, whatever that is for them, right? So I feel like I get to live the dream every day working with clients.
I often try to express to people that success is a perspective. My version of it is different than your version, and if you were to go back to the day we were born in the birthing room and say, hey, what would your kid's life look like if they were successful? It's drastically different than what we're doing right now. But it's the ability to accept, like, my version is my version, and I'm going to do everything I can to get there. That is what allows people like yourself to go from, Minnesota farm girl to running multi-million-dollar companies and helping other people absolutely not just change their life, but every person they work with directly, whether it's a client or an employee on their team, they're able to bring all of the wisdom that you've gained over your years of experience to them in a way that allows them to be more successful and create their version of it. Yeah. And what I love about what you said is, like, we're in the construction industries, like the riches are in the niches.
I
Because
know.
if you truly understand what your clients are going through, as you said, a lot of them have the same problems. And if you can understand that, you're like 2 steps ahead of where they are. So they almost think, she can read my mind. This is crazy. How did you know? And it's like, well, turns out everybody that goes down these journeys, to go from 1 million to 5 million, there's a couple different things you have to figure out. And then once you get to 5, now you got to figure out these next couple of roadblocks to get to 10 or 20 or whatever that number is, because everyone has some arbitrary number they're looking for. And so I love the fact that you realize, hey, if we can just help these people figure out this one big problem, it's going to springboard them into the next season. And ultimately, I know we could probably nerd out on this like for hours, but I
Yeah.
want to be respectful of your time. So what's the best way for us to find you, follow you? I think you have something that you wanted to share with the audience. What's that all about?
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to share and just have this conversation. I think it's really rich, and I hope we help people who are listening. I know we will. You can find me you can go to our website, ursulainc.co. So that's still there. And then I'm on Instagram, Facebook, I'm on TikTok. Those are the main places. And then we put together a little package called Nail Your Sales Script. It's free. And I know you can have that link in the show notes. And so back to in the very beginning, when you're talking about like 2 decades ago, we had real phones. My 11-year-old son doesn't know what a real phone is, but anyway, we had real phones and they plugged into walls and things. Anyway, so you were right. Like we would just sit there and pound the phone, like literally like this. I still believe cold calling works. I know you do as well. We still help our clients cold call. Is it different? Yes. And so the bundle that we put together, the Nail Your Sales Script, basically helps you clarify your sales script. And you can use it in email. You can use it in private messaging. You can certainly, I have a voicemail script. You can use it in your voicemail and ask people to call you back, right? Even if they're not answering. So anyway, that's our gift. And I hope it's helpful to people.
Well, I appreciate that you still believe in the power of the phone call. And what I try to express to people is call the damn leads is exactly what it is. And also it's just a mantra for creating connection, being
Yes.
intentional with the actions that you're taking. And from the sounds of it, that script option that you've given away, I'm going to make sure the show notes have the links to everything, because I think people are going to really appreciate that. But it's just that it's being intentional with the conversation that you're having, no matter where you're having it. And that is
Yes.
going to be an absolute game changer for people. So thank you for sharing that. I really do appreciate it. And I'm excited to go and, personally go and nerd out on it, because that's the stuff that I'm always learning. And if it can help me get better, then it'll help other people get better. So Ursula, thank you for taking the time to create the content, to share your story, because I know there's someone listening to this. It's like on a farm right now thinking, damn, I don't have to stay stuck here forever. I'm going to go and actually do some stuff. This is awesome. So just again, truly grateful for the opportunity to chat with you today.
Yeah. Jeremy, thanks for having me. And thank you to all your listeners. And I wish you guys the best this year.
Hey, well, if you enjoyed the show, share it on social media, tag your friends, tag somebody that needs it. Maybe even send this to someone who you know absolutely sucks at sales. Don't tell them they suck, or maybe tell them. Sometimes people need the hard truth. But either way, share this episode. It's packed with wisdom, packed with value, and an amazing story of overcoming all the things that so many people use to keep themselves from getting where they want in life. And if you have an awesome story like that, if you've been through some things and you know that sales has changed your life, I'd love to invite you to be a part of the show. Head over to callthedamnleads.com/podcast. Send us your details. We'll get you booked in. And again, just make sure that whatever you're doing today, do it with intention, because the intentionality is what's going to get you where you want to be in life. So from here, you guys know what to do. Go call the damn leads. We'll see you on the next one.